a huge problem like inventing a vaccine that needs no needles and no refrigeration if they have the money to do it. It seems to me that Bill Gates now devotes more of his time and genius to prudently spending his fortune than to earning it. In turn, Time reports further, Bono, and I quote Time again, charmed and bullied and morally blackmailed the leaders of the world's richest countries into forgiving $40 billion in debt owed by the poorest. Now, these countries can spend the money on health and schools rather than interest payments and have no more excuse for not doing so. Close quotation. The redefinition of generosity by De Gateses and Bono is not about pity, it is more about passion. Pity sees the suffering and wants to ease the pain. Passion sees injustice and wants to settle the score. Pity implores the powerful to pay attention. Passion warns about what will happen if they don't. The risk of pity is that it kills with kindness. The promise of passion is that it builds on the hope that the poor are fully capable of helping themselves if given the chance. Third, not only should the noble examples of great philanthropists be admired, they should be emulated. It is essential to have social responsibility in the systematic dispersal of private wealth. In our country, this norm has been pioneered by the Philippine Business for Social Progress. Member companies of PBSP contribute a fixed percentage of their net incomes to a common fund to pursue humanitarian causes. Along the same line, the big business conglomerates like Ayala, Metrobank, YGC, and those of Henry C., Lucio Tan, John Gokongwei, Emilio Yap, and the other Taipans have formed their own philanthropic foundations to pursue educational, livelihood, and other causes designed to minimize poverty and to help the people help themselves. As I speak, I know that more conglomerates and more members of the WPO are likewise realizing the need to spend their wealth prudently. I dare say to you, ladies and gentlemen of the World Presidents Organization, that the only justification for accumulating enormous wealth is the zeal and the ability to distribute it wisely to the needy and the hungry. Fourth, the world's most important developmental institutions, like the United Nations Development Program, the World Bank, and the Asian Development Bank, have learned over the years that their goals of alleviating poverty and propelling economic growth cannot be attained unless there is, and I quote them, a well-functioning judicial system that enables the state to regulate the economy and empower private individuals to contribute to economic development by confidently engaging in business, investments, and other transactions, unquote. For this reason, the UNDP supports the broadening of the poor's access to justice. And the World Bank wants, and I quote World Bank, an effective and efficient judicial system that protects citizens from the abuses of government and safeguards the rights of the poor, unquote. And the ADB desires, and I quote ADB, to enhance the effectiveness and the accountability of the judiciary, unquote. These four developments, among many others, convinced me that while political liberty, the clarion call of the past, must be continuously safeguarded in the present and in the future, the prosperity of our people requires as much nurturing in the present century as that accorded to liberty in the past. To be relevant, courts must be constantly attuned to the needs of the present and the vagaries of the future, so that they can make timely and prudent responses to the people's ever-expanding well-being. As I approach the end of my address, let me say that just as there is an emerging catharsis over the role of private wealth in alleviating poverty, disease, and hunger in the world, as ably demonstrated by the Gateses and Bono, there is also an ongoing renewal of the part that courts play in instilling both economic and political justice. During the International Conference and Showcase on Judicial Reform held in the Philippines on November 28 to 30, 2005, a conference I had the honor of chairing, there emerged a firm consensus. Judiciaries must not only be possessed of independence and integrity when they hear and decide controversies. They must likewise be sufficiently aware that justice cannot flourish unless it is both egalitarian and social in orientation and direction. The conference established a judicial reform network, we call it JRN 21, website administered by the Philippine Supreme Court. The network would act as the information center for the exchange of ideas, measures, proposals, and projects to reform the judiciaries of the world. The conference also set up the Asia-Pacific Judicial Reform Forum to continue the initiatives started in the conference. Those initiatives are being reviewed, as I said earlier, in our meeting in Sydney, which is taking place right now. Again, as I reminisce about my own journey as a pilgrim in our temporal world, I feel thankful for my encounters with the best business and legal minds in the WPO and elsewhere, as they prepared me to tackle the burning issues of